I am so proud to introduce our speaker for today. He has done many things in his life, and one of them is writing books and getting them published and marketing them, while he is very busy with many other aspects of his life. The flyer kind of covered a lot of that. Right now, he is a full-time pastor at a place in Castle Rock, Colorado. And I know he does many other things besides that. And so I am proud to introduce my nephew, Wayne Hanson.
Thank you, Aunt Sunshine. I always accidentally call her Aunt Terry because that's how I grew up calling her. So if I slip up every now and then and call her Aunt Terry, that please forgive me for that. That's, old habits die hard. I'm sure you understand. Um, yeah, I was honored that my aunt, called me up and asked me to share on publishing and writing and the creative process and marketing your work. I started, I'll give you the quick and dirty on my story. I grew up in Detroit, Michigan. My dad was also a pastor, three brothers, a very musical family. Sunshine's sister is my mom. And so she is also a musician. She used to play piano for their dad's church growing up. And I guess the musical gene just stayed in the family because we continued to learn instruments. And my brothers and I had a rock band called Samaritan back in the day. And I learned to read music, and of course, in school, played trumpet. I played bass in the jazz band. I sang in choir. I did all the different solo and ensemble, everything musical I could do, musical theater, just a lot of the different creative stuff growing up, coming through high school. And then I went to North Central University in Minneapolis and got my degree in broadcasting and a minor in music. And I moved to Nashville, Tennessee, and I worked for Word Records, which is a Christian and pop music, recording company. And then I was also working for Opryland and Jimmy Owens Productions and several independent film houses, and did a lot of independent filmmaking for music videos and sales videos and TV commercials and all that stuff. So I've always had a creative bug, whether it was musical or filmmaking or production, or now, being a pastor. Every sermon is a piece of creativity where you take a Bible passage and you try to bring it to life so that people can easily understand it and apply it to their lives. And my latest foray, the reason why I'm here today, is I've been writing a series. I've written a lot of discipleship books. I've written a lot of books in prose, and I've written one fictional novel, which has not been published. But a few years ago, I started writing this little series called Tilly the Tilapia. And I illustrate the Tilly the Tilapia books. And so they basically tell life lessons with each little story. And it's always told from the fish's perspective. And then I do the illustrations. And I've always loved Curious George, Dr. Seuss. I've loved all those children's books because those authors also, in addition to writing their children's books, they also illustrated their own books. So there's something very powerful about, if you have the ability to draw and to sketch, to be the one who also writes the story, because then every writer has a picture in their mind of what they want the book to look like, but they don't always have the ability to create the illustration. But being the illustrator, I can draw the picture until I get it perfect, or I can change the wording without pissing off the illustrator, because I am the illustrator. So I kind of cut out the middleman, being the author and the illustrator, and it's been a lot of fun. So I work with soft pastels, if you're familiar with art mediums. So I do black art paper, and I do the sketching with colored pencil, and then I fill it in with soft pastels and do the blending. And so that creates really interesting textures and interesting colors. Each book, I have a favorite page on a different book. Like here's a close up of the eye of Tilly when she gets caught in a fishing net, and so it's very colorful. It's a fun way to use the drawing and the creativity. Like here's the fisherman catching the fish and then kissing the fish because he was so excited to catch the fish. So I do that, and of course I've got notebooks full of sketches that never made it to the pages of a book. I do a lot of sketching and drawing. But these books, I self-published for a lot of years. And then I started, if you're interested in writing your own books or doing your own material, I came upon a self-publisher that gives you a path to global distribution if you're interested in trying to take your work beyond just your circle of family and friends and people that you would get in front of. It's lulu.com. If you go to lulu.com, you can design your own manuscript, whether it's in Microsoft Word, or you can hire an illustrator. You can do the work that a lot of authors do, whether they're children's authors or fiction authors or prose or whatever you're writing. And there's an option in Lulu to submit your work for global distribution. So if you have if you really believe in the work that you've done and you feel like, man, I've really perfected it, you've shown it to several people that would be interested in buying a book like that. I tested it with a lot of different people, lots of different kids and parents. Like, what do you think of this book? Is there anything about it that doesn't make sense? Like, is there a page here that's missing? Or if they ask a question that shows that they don't really understand where the story is going, then I would modify the prose and the illustrations until it read smooth, until so that someone else could read the book and they could read it to their child, and they all came away with a happy feeling, or yeah, that I get it. I get what the book's about. So once I was really happy with my press edition, then I would submit that to global distribution on Lulu. And of course you can be rejected. I mean, it's not a guarantee just because you submit it that you're going to be accepted. It has to be of a certain quality that retailers would want to pick it up. But so far, like I said, I've written the first one, Tilly the Tilapia, A Life After Death Fish Tale. The second one is Tilly Breaks Through, A Lesson on Never Giving Up, which is kind of like my Little Engine That Could story. The Little Engine That Could, it's sort of that story of not giving up. And then the latest one, I just came out for global distribution 2 weeks ago, called Tilly Pays the Taxes, a lesson about fishing and money. And so each of them tries to just share some kind of life lesson that would be a conversation starter for adults with children, whether it's parents or teachers or anybody that's working with kids, or even older children with younger children. And so Lulu has been my go-to for self-publishing. And then you can set up the options. Many self-publishing companies have the ability to submit your book for distribution, and they can either accept it or reject it. They can either say yes or no to it. But so far, so good. My last two books, before Tilly Pays the Taxes, both of those are in not only national distribution, but international distribution. I was seeing people are buying my books in Sweden and in Europe and throughout the English-speaking world. So they seem to be a beloved children's book. I put a lot of time and love and care into it. So hopefully that gets the conversation started. That's some of my story with the books and my background. So I'm not sure where you want me to take it from here, but I'll let you guide it here, Sunshine.
Well then, I think I would like to open it up for any questions that anyone has. Okay, and I'm going to mute myself again.
I have a question. Does Lulu.com accept any memoirs?
Yes, it's Marcia, right? Hey, Marcia. Yeah, you can publish on whatever level you want to with Lulu. So I've done some short run publishing just for in-house things that I do with the church, like our Bible study guides or our church membership class. You can self-publish. So let's say that you write the memoirs of a family member, and you're going to print maybe 40 or 50 copies. It doesn't need to be globally distributed, but you're going to buy at least 40 or 50. There's an option for that on Lulu, and then basically you pay per copy. And of course, it's like any printing company. The more you print in volume, the lower the price gets per item. But yeah, that's a great question. And there are better companies for doing just straight large volume publishing if you have another company doing the distribution. But I like Lulu because they take care of all my royalties for me. They keep track of all that for me. They do all the legal for me. All I have to do is write books and upload them, and then submit them for distribution, and retailers can either pick it up or not pick it up. It's up to them. If they don't want it, then they don't take it. But yeah, I see a question here in the chat. It says, how did you get into Walmart? It was really through that. When I submitted the books for global distribution, Lulu sends a whole block full of potential titles for the retailer to cover that year. And so Walmart picked it up, and then a lot of book, you can find it in Barnes and Noble. You can almost everywhere where books are sold. You can certainly find a digital copy, and many of them you can find the physical copy in the store. So hopefully that answers your question. But yeah, you can publish in a lot of different levels, Marcia. So if you've got memoirs, don't feel like you have to go down to the local Kinko's and make copies on a copy machine. You can do a really nice bound version of a book that you've prepared and make it look very nice. If you're just working on a laptop or you have a family member helping you, it's great.
What about travel stories? I've done a lot of travel.
Oh,
a lot of travel stories.
Yes. I think you think about how do you market good travel guides? I would do that by region or country, because when people are buying a travel guide, they're going, oh, I'm going to Africa. What do I need to know about South Africa? That's where I'm going. And so rather than to tell every place you've ever been, I would become a specialist on maybe the place you've gone most, and some of the things that you learned about the history or the ins and outs of travel or language or the food or the culture. And that would make your book much more marketable for sure. Great question, Marcia.
As compared to when we use what used to be called Create Space, and now it's called Kindle Direct Publishing, there really is no cost. And you can buy the books if you want to. So I imagine that Lulu has a price tag attached to it, which anybody can research now that we have the com on it. But do you have a quick overview?
Yeah, what you'll see, especially some of you probably on your computer right now looking at lulu.com, but if you go to their main page, you'll see that you pick the format of what you're wanting to create first. So whether it's a hard copy or if it's a square book or if it's a paperback, you want to be able to size what the book is, how it's the look and feel of the book. And you can only do that once you've written a manuscript, right? You can't pick it and then write it and then try to write to fit the format. You kind of have to have most of the content together before you can decide on what format you want to have. So like with this format that I use with Lulu, I do a few hardcover versions of this book, and those are the ones that sell in more the high-end children's stores. But I also print for myself a lot of the soft cover paperback style, but it's still kind of like magazine style. They're glossy pages, that it's almost like a graphic novel. And so I kind of know going in what I want. With it being so cartoony, I think of comic book fans and people that like, cartoons and illustrations and comics, and that was kind of, my mindset going into it. But you gotta kind of pick a direction and go in it, And the trick is sometimes it's hard to know where to start. That's the tough thing. So once you can pick a direction, then you can focus in that direction and take your vision somewhere.
Yes. Wayne, that's the point I'm at. I basically have my text complete. It's going to be a text with pictures because it's basically a family history, like a memoir. But I'm at the point where I feel like I can choose a publisher, but I'm trying to figure out, and I know of a number, Lulu.com, Kindle. I'm looking at producing a hardcover, bound, normal book size, for a library shelf kind of thing. But it's not for sale. I mean, who's going to care about my family history? It's merely for my family, genealogical facilities and libraries in the areas where the family has resided and so on. So it's going to be a limited distribution. And I'm trying to figure out what publishing resource is going to be most attuned to what I'm trying to do. You have any thoughts?
Yeah, I do. A lot of folks these days have been, if they're doing just like family genealogies, they'll go more in the direction of almost like a family photo album, a custom family photo album, but it's been published with the pictures and with, a little bit of history or story or motivational quotes or whatever interspersed with the pictures. And I would recommend Snapfish for something like that. I don't know if you've ever seen Snapfish, but that's a way that you can submit a bunch of your photos and then you can lay out the book the way you want it to look and feel. And then it makes wonderful gifts to your family because it's a hardbound book and you're not going to make them buy it unless they're like, well, how much did it cost you per copy? And they're like, well, it cost me about $12 a copy or $20 a copy or whatever it was. And they can, they can help you out with it. But, a lot of this, I'm so familiar with what you're talking about with passion projects, that it's great to produce something that it'll never be a bestseller. It's only for me. Like being a musician, I have written so many songs that no one will ever hear because either A, I'm embarrassed of it, or I thought it was funny, but no one else thinks it's funny, or it's a snapshot of my emotions in that time in life, but it's only special to me, and it's okay that it's only special to me.
Let me expand on my comments just a little and see if you still are in the same area. My family, nobody really knew anything of the history. As soon as somebody died, that history disappeared. So I went back, did a fair amount of research, and I've tried to put the family history into context. What was going on at the time? What was their life like? Trying to reconstruct as much as I can, conversations that occurred or stories that people remembered, and the photos. So there's going to be a fair amount of text and photos because a lot of people don't have any of the photos. They just didn't save them. So Snapfish sounds more like a photo book with maybe a little text, captions, etc. I'm looking at something that's more like a history book with accompanying illustrations.
May I make a comment here?
Yeah.
Ernest, I don't know if you're the one to whom I responded through email about your situation. I don't know your last name, but anyway, a year and a half ago, I wrote something. I finished something exactly like what you have just described. It took me 10 years to do it, and I worked through Nick Cattleman, who spoke at our publishing club several months ago, and he walked me all through the process. I didn't need it to be edited much, but I did exactly what you're describing you have done. And another person in our club, Nancy Brown, has also used him. He's in the LA area. He's very reasonable and is a wonderful person to work with, reasonable in terms of expense. So I never expected to put my book on Amazon, which I did at his recommendation, and I sold a few to friends and people around the country. But it was mainly for my family history.
Mhm.
So anyway, if you want to be in touch with me, I can give you the information about how to contact Nick. He's wonderful to work with, and many people in the club know of him and about his work.
I put my email address in the chat with a long paragraph. If you could
okay.
respond to me, because I don't recall having received
Oh,
anything.
I'm Mike. I'm the one she responded to.
Oh, you are? What's your last name, Mike?
Marshildon.
Oh, okay. I didn't remember who it was.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, you didn't respond to me. Okay.
I did.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And
Here's Marshall's book.
Oh, yeah, that's my book.
And of course, we have the
Here,
thing that we use to publish our village stories, in which I published my stories with, which is kdp.org. And they basically have formats that you can download, so you know how your book, you can choose the format that you want. If you want it to look like a regular 9x6 book, which this is, or if you want other formats, they have them. You download them to your, basically your Word, and then you type into that format. You
What
read
was
the
the name
message.
of it?
KDP, Kindle Direct Publishing. And it used to be Create Space, and then Amazon took it over. And they have also templates for you to, if you want to create your own cover, if you have a skill set like Wayne, you would definitely want to do that. Or like our own president, Peggy. I used pictures for our Village Stories books that people had voted on for the back cover and the front cover, and I fed it into the template and put it up there. And it's time consuming, but that's another way to do it.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, wait, if you produce videos,
Sunshine, could you mute?
I'm giving that echo. But videos. Do you produce, or have you produced videos?
Yeah. I have produced videos for record companies. I haven't done a lot of videos produced for sale per se. The whole video market has changed so much with YouTube and Vimeo and all the streaming and on demand. It's hard to get people to pay for a video these days unless you've got very important information. So there's not a lot of money in making videos. There's what videos are useful for are for selling other products. So when you make a sales video, a TV commercial, an online ad, that's video seems to be really good for selling other products, but it's not a great product for selling in and of itself unless you're providing like an online course, or you're doing a real estate seminar, or you're doing some kind of information that the people are paying to get the information. And even in that case, the quality doesn't have to be that good. It doesn't have to be like a Hollywood blockbuster film, because they're just there for the information. They're not there for the production value. So yeah, I have done video, but the way the market's changing, unless you're making movies, or you're one particular show, I'll say this, I'm making a TV show right now, and I have the mug for it right in front of me. It's called, in fact, you go to YouTube, it's called The Jesus Taxi. If I can put it in focus there. The Jesus Taxi.
Yeah.
So it's a little reality TV show. It's on my YouTube channel. So if you go to youtube.com/Pastor Wayne H and go to the playlist that says The Jesus Taxi, you can see some of the first season. And again, I'm not selling those. That's going to be on air on Christian television and Christian Television Network. And then I do affiliate marketing and ad space on the show. So there's commercial underwriting for the airtime and for the production cost. So, if you're thinking video, you think of video as a sales tool. That's really, I think that's the best way to think about it. And you guys have brought up some great thoughts about, how could I take this genealogy or my family history to another level where other people would want to read it besides just my family. I think if you do something like ancestry.com or 23andMe, you could see who some of your famous relatives are many generations back and go, well, maybe you could draw a thread of heredity, like, oh, my uncle reminds me of Napoleon. By the way, 5 generations back, we have this connection to Napoleon. Again, it's all based on your creativity. And if you tell a good story, people will listen. That's what I've learned.
Yeah,
so learn to tell a good story. That's really important.
Yeah.
Situation.
I'm thinking of a movie of my great uncle who started soccer in Mexico. And he was a great soccer hero. So
yeah, so in that case, I would certainly write, even if it just 100 pages about it, try to give it a story that
pictures, everything.
Yeah. So do a beginning, a middle, and an end, right? And then make it in such a way that you could write a script, to tell the story.
How do I do that?
Yeah, you'd have to hire a script writer.
Or should I take a course?
Yeah, there are script writing courses for sure. That's
They
something to
tell
think about.
me to start with an outline.
To start with Alma.
Outline.
Oh, an outline. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep, for sure. Yep. So I would certainly think of. Did you say your grandfather?
My grandmother's brother.
Oh, okay. So a great uncle. Yeah.
Right.
So maybe you can, do the authorized biography of, so that would probably be a very hot script amongst Mexican soccer players.
Everybody south of the border, because it was the beginning of soccer in America.
Yeah, you need a Spanish version, right? So you need it translated too. That would
I'm from Mexico. I'm Spanish speaking.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Very good.
Spanish is my maternal language.
Yeah, very good. Well, then that's a good place to start. And there are a lot of online courses you can take for script writing, but certainly thinking about the story in terms of an outline and an arc of a story. Where is it going to go? Where did he start? What was the struggle? How did he overcome? How did the story end? And if you think of biographies in terms of story, then you can begin to tackle it, from the writing process. But sometimes it's hard to know where to start.
I know where to start. If there's a great starting, he comes into Pachuca yelling after trekking 6 days in the desert, after almost being murdered by the revolutionaries, yelling, did we win or did we lose? So, yeah.
I love it. That's a very compelling story. I would want to know what happened next. And of course, there's got to be a love interest in a story like that.
Course.
Right.
Of course.
Right. Yes.
Do you form a team, a publishing team, or do you take this on by yourself?
I would say with my ministry books, my theology books, I definitely had more of a ministry team just to make sure, that it was squaring with what people needed in ministry and what my current, cohorts in the pastorate were wanting and needing. With the children's books, I let the children be my editors. I let the parents and the adults who have to read the book to the kids be my editors. Because if they stumble over a word, or one page seems too long, or another page seems too short, or kids start asking questions about, what is that picture? What is this? What is that? I go, uh-oh, I didn't draw that picture well enough. I need to change that. That's not quite right. So I'll make a text to manuscript first, and then a flip book with the illustrations. So someone reads the text, and then I flip it in front of the children, and they get to see the illustrations while they hear the story. And if there's a gap in the story, then, or if they have a question that they don't get it, or that they think the story should go this way, but it goes this way instead, then I start making modifications to how I think the story ought to go. And even if it doesn't, it's not what I like, sometimes you have to put your own opinion aside and let the reader tell you what they want to hear. Which is so hard for us as writers, because I want the story to go this way, but the reader really wants this over here. And so you have to honor that need and want sometimes. But surprises are great in stories too. It's always good to add a gotcha moment, where, oh, I didn't expect that to happen, or that's what humor is many times. It's somebody says something really out of bounds or something really crazy, and that's where a laugh can come in the story, or, a dichotomy or misunderstanding or whatever. That's all great fodder for humor, for sure.
Are you thinking of animating tilapia?
Yes, I have been. There's a university down in Nashville where I used to live called Lipscomb University that has an animation film department with a bunch of college age kids. And so I've been pitching the idea of them taking it on as a student project. I haven't heard back yet, but there's a program called Adobe Character Animator Plus, which I've been kind of toying with, and you can map your face to a character and make the character move, almost like digital puppetry. So I've thought about doing something like that. But all these things. Adobe Character Animator Plus. Yeah, there's a lot to it, and it's probably deeper. I don't want to become an animator. I've got enough other jobs going. But if I were going to get into animation, that I would, see someone who works with that, because that's a quick way to get a lot of frame content up for sure. So that's good. I don't know if am I giving you what you guys want and need here today?
So Wayne, if you're writing your family history, would you let your family members read it before you publish it?
I would say if they're in the book, then you give them, if you love them, you should give them some editorial license to say, if this is too much, please tell me, and I'll modify it, or I'll pull it out altogether, because it's not fair unless you feel like, well, they have it coming. The truth needs to come out sometime. But I think it's always best not to write out of revenge. I always like to think I let God be my avenger. I don't have to take revenge. I need to just forgive people, and because everyone is human, and given the same set of circumstances, if I was in the same place, I might have made the same mistake. And so I think it's okay to tell the stories of people, but they always say never speak ill of the dead. I think there's something to that. You want to be very kind, and you can tell the truth without being cruel, and so there's a good balance there if you're telling somebody's story. And it's not like you have to whitewash everything and pretend bad things didn't happen, but giving full context to every story. And if the people in the story are still alive, then I do think it's really good to get their permission, before you go to press, for sure.
Mm.
So
Heidi, I think it was 3 years ago, Gila and Bob Foss started this script writing group, and I was interested in learning how to do that. So I joined the group, and as a result of that, I purchased some software. It's called Final Draft. There are many others, some are free. So you go online and take a look at that. But also a book that I've gotten into just barely, but I intend to go through the whole thing. I read another book by this author, David Trottier, called Dr. Format. This one is the Screenwriter's Bible, and it's by David Trottier, Trottier. And he covers everything. Some people have said in our group that they think it's easier for your story to write a script first and then write the novel or the memoir or whatever kind of publication you're writing. So just a couple thoughts there.
Thank you.
Thanks, Doug. I think that's great advice. Yeah, I think that's true no matter what style of writing you're doing, whether it's fiction, nonfiction, children's book. It's really good to have an outline so that way you can plan your work and you'll know how long it will take you to write it. For me, I do a free writing process where I will set a timer for 10 minutes and I'll just write. I won't even make spelling corrections. I'll talk into my voice recorder and tell a story and just let it flow out of me, even with mistakes. And I won't self-edit. I'll just let my brain go wild. And if you've ever read any Kurt Vonnegut, The Stream of Consciousness writing, that's kind of what my free writing is like. It's just, I might come up with a grocery list, but I also might be telling the story. And it's just whatever's on my mind, I just say it, I just write it, and I don't edit. And for about 10 minutes, I just dump it all out on the page. And then I probably get rid of 85% of it, but the 15% that I keep is the good stuff. And so you have to write a lot before you have something that's readable, So those are my thoughts.
Question on the table about whether or not you use an editor. I know you said you use the children as your editor, but do you have an editor that goes through your work for you?
Yeah, with these new children's books, the submitting them to the distribution approval process is like submitting it to an editor. So they function as my editor, but of course I do a lot of the legwork that normal paid editors would do, because we do all the standard stuff: spell check, grammar check, punctuation, look and feel of everything, spacing, indentations, formatting, all of that. But again, some of this is very subjective, especially when you talk about a children's book, because it's very artistic, it's very flowy, it's very creative. And so it's okay to be outside the box and a little wacky and weird because it's a kid's book, and that's the beauty of working with that genre. And maybe some of you want to do your family history in a kid's book, because you can talk about old Grandpa John. He was crazy. You go fishing every Tuesday at 2:00, or whatever. And, you can find a cartoonist or a caricaturist that could take a picture and, make the story engaging for grandkids, for children in the family, and a lot of people are like, well, I want it to be a real story. Well, it's okay to have real stories, but real stories for kids can kind of be boring, if you spice it up a little bit. It's like what we Irish say, kissing the Blarney Stone a little bit. It's okay to embellish the story because it makes it tell a little bit better, and it's pretty fun and it's funny, and it shows a sense of humor for your family when they see that you can laugh at yourself a little bit too, and that yeah, our family ain't perfect. We make a lot of mistakes. Boy, you ought to see what my daddy did that one time, and it's okay, and people love that. So imperfections are okay, and people don't like perfect people. People hate perfect people. We
No
we
wonder
like
people
we love flawed characters. We love people who are wacky and wild and weird because they're interesting. You don't know what they're gonna do next, and so we have to read another page because what's this crazy person gonna do next? Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's sunshine. That is sunshine for sure. In my family, she's my crazy aunt for sure. Awesome. Does that answer your editor question? Yeah, so I see someone says, how much does it cost to print your own books? Again, that's just based on the volume, the style, the format, the paper quality, whether you're doing hardcover, soft cover, how many pages you have.
Whether or not you do color.
Yeah, whether or not you do color, for sure. Yeah, a lot of that is just based on the printer. And of course, you can, if you're doing high volume, high page, you can print in bulk, and I would say for short runs, that's not a great move. But if you think you're gonna sell thousands and thousands, then finding a bulk printer and working on selling the distribution yourself by going to a booksellers convention or working through a book distributor that is going to sell your book to chains of stores, then printing in bulk starts to make a lot of sense. So those are my thoughts. Awesome. Any other questions for me, you guys?
Well, Wayne, you've just answered all our questions. This is very informative.
Good. Well, I expect you all to be best-selling authors now.
Well, we will, no doubt.
And I can't wait to read that Soccer Mexico zone.
Yeah. I form a team with people in Denver and Colorado Springs. So
When I unexpectedly hooked up with my graduating class in 1961 from high school, they found me through 3 name changes. Anyhow, they bought some of my books. Journey to Joy got sold some more.
that's a good idea. Through your school team. Yes, through your school. Yeah.
Well, if there are no more questions at this point, I just want to tell Wayne a big thank you. We really appreciate you and what you had to share with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Wayne. This was excellent. We appreciate you so much. Thank you.
And you are now a member for a year with a free copy of our next Village Stories.
Yeah, and we'll expect you to report on.
Bring it to that.
Thank you.
Thanks again. I look forward to visiting with you maybe in another year or so and see how it's going.
That
Yes,
would be really nice.
good luck with your telling. Good luck with your telling books too. Good luck with your telling books.
Yeah.
Do we have any announcements before we close out?
Well, members, don't forget. Well, next month we have 3 of our authors. Professor Alan Hale Dickinson, who's published 40 books.
Peggy, I can't understand. It's echoing.
Too many echoes.
There I am again. Sorry.
If you could start again, Peggy.
Okay. Can you understand me?
Yes, it's
Good,
better now. Mhm.
Okay. Next month, February 16th, we'll have 3 authors. Professor Alan Dale Dickinson, who's published 40 books.
Mhm.
Scott Galasso, who's the master of haiku and a great poet, and he's published 16 books. And Dennis Glauber, who I say is the master of English, a Shakespearean writer. He's superb. So those will be our 3 authors next month. And then March is author forum. Our authors will be able to promote and talk about their books at Clubhouse too. If you're interested in participating, we'll have a flyer with a bottom portion for you to fill in and submit to us so you can be included. That's in March and October, March 16th and October 19th at Clubhouse 2 from 2 to 5. And April recommends someone. We're looking for a speaker for April. Of course, September is storytelling. And those are my announcements for now. Also, I am thinking of, for our charity, donating our books, not only to libraries, but hospitals and doctor's office. I mean, our village stories. So if you're going to a doctor's office or hospital, ask us for a few books to donate. I think it's a good way to promote as well as donate.
I just donated one to social services. Does anyone have any questions about the submission of their stories, the shells that I provided? Are there any questions on that?
Sunshine said, it's submission time. So your submissions, send them to Nancy Brown. She sent you instructions. And so they're welcome.
I'm new to the club, but
Welcome.
I wonder if you have a list of people that help you to self-publish. You know, I don't think I want to do every part of it other than write it.
Well,
So-
I recommend Sunshine.
We really have several, and I can, when I give the, I always send the link for it's being recorded, so that will be sent out after this meeting. When I do that, I could also send the links of 2 seminars that I led where that I gave the process of doing self-publishing through KDP. So we have a lot of material out there. If somebody has gone through that material and they want to email me a question, I will eventually answer you.
Are there people you have worked with who have helped you through the process or handled parts of it for you?
Sunshine does our village stories, but Phil will help. I think Phil's here. Professor, it's not.
Well, I worked with this Nick Cattleman that I mentioned earlier to the man who left. We could give you his name.
Thank you.
He's
Thank you.
because all I wanted to do was write also, but he was very nice and walked me all through the process. It was very, very comfortable working through him. And it was all online or on the phone, you know, because it was a pandemic.
Marcia,
There is a price
Yes.
for that.
did he act as an editor for your work as well?
Who
Yes,
is that?
he does edit, but I'm a pretty good editor myself. And so I needed next to no editing of what I wrote.
Well, I'm not talking about just punctuation and spelling, etc.
Right.
I'm
right.
talking about content
Right.
and contour and a whole host of artistic issues that might accompany a work. And
Sure,
was he helpful with that stuff?
very much so. But I had some very specific ideas of what I wanted to do, and I did a timeline as the beginning of my book.
Okay, but yours was not a work of fiction, was it?
Oh, no, it's a work of memoirs.
Yeah,
All
well,
memoirs.
Okay. Yeah.
Do you
I
think he
have-
would be helpful with fiction?
Would he?
I would think, you could certainly ask him.
I think you could be, because he put together Nancy's book,
Right.
which was like 2,000 pages of stream of consciousness. So,
Her great grandmother's book. Something like
right. Just pages and pages, handwritten pages.
So it's Nick Cattleman?
Right.
Cattle- Okay. And
Kattleman.
and he's a member of the club?
Yes. He spoke months before this.
Oh, well, then I heard him. Okay, that's the gentleman that loves sports, right?
No, that's
No.
Fred Cantor.
Okay,
That's
well, that
not-
was the first time I visited you.
Yeah, it was the time before.
Oh,
I think Nick spoke in maybe October. Didn't he?
okay, well,
speak in
I wasn't involved. Well, Marcia, if you could send me his email, I'd appreciate it.
And also, once you have the link of this publication, all of the publications for the publishing club are in a playlist. And so you can look for the October presentation, and it is out there.
Okay.
No, it was November.
Oh, okay.
It was November.
And that's on, that's through your website or YouTube? How is that found?
That's through YouTube.
Okay. Thank you.
If that's all the questions, welcome new members and see you next month.
Right.
Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.